Hi, and welcome to the VR Gaming Podcast, a podcast and commentary about VR gaming, VR news, VR hardware, and VR reviews. I'm your host, Nick Lane, and with me is Justin Davis. Justin, how are you?
Hey Nick, I'm good. We have a lot of stuff to talk about.
We do
Uh,
have a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm
yeah.
excited. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about. I've been playing a bunch of games. I don't know if it's just timing with like
hmm
releases or if it's like time to hide inside because it's getting dark and cold. But it worked out pretty good.
Cool.
Um, I'm gonna do a quick call to action.
hmm
I don't do this much. I don't try to belabor the point. But if you guys are enjoying this podcast, is obviously something we do for fun. We do it once a month, I think, and I think we try to space it out so we don't get burned out. And I think that Justin and I both are people that strive for brevity and not talking for 2 hours when you can just say something in 1 hour, right? So if you've been listening and you're enjoying this, take a moment if you can leave a review. That helps us get some recognition. I've not had the time to really market this podcast as best as I can because I do so much and I've got a lot going on. But it is enjoyable, and I hope that other people enjoy it and it finds even larger audience. We've got a good, consistent listenership, and I just figured I'd ask if you can leave some reviews that will help us to get some more eyes and ears on this podcast. So let's let's jump into the monthly recap. And I'm looking at Justin the games that you played, and it's not there's not a ton of games like you normally have, but I'm guessing some of these games required a lot more time, a lot more of your time. So I'm eager to hear what you've been playing.
Yeah, so I've talked about Outer Wilds before. There's a free VR mod for that. Outer Wilds is a flat, regular just a flat game. But with the VR mod, you have, obviously full 3D VR. It's like native. It's like a native VR game, and it has motion controls. Well, there's this DLC that came out for it, Echoes of the Eye. I think that came out in September, but this month the mod got an update to support the DLC Echoes of the Eye, and I gotta say that blew my mind. Just like Outer Wilds did originally, going into this DLC and figuring out how to get to the new area, and like as soon as you drop into the new area, I'm not gonna say what it is, but it's like holy shit. So Outer Wilds. Okay, so my three favorite games of all time, not just VR, all games. Outer Wilds is one of them. Skyrim VR is another, and another is Subnautica. So I played Subnautica Below Zero, which is like the second Subnautica. It's not DLC. It's kind of it's another game set in like a frozen kind of world, but it's swimming underwater, and it's an exploration game and survival. So you got to like worry about your air and your food and your water intake, and you're just Outer Wilds and Subnautica are similar, that you're exploring an alien world, and it's just like the whole time I'm just completely awestruck and just in love with it. I'm like I said, top three games of all time: Subnautica and Outer Wilds are in there. They're both 10 out of 10 masterpieces to me. So I was playing Subnautica Below Zero for like 30 hours. So that's why just this month. So that's why I don't have that many games to talk about this month. And Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye, I played that for. I only got to play that for like 5 hours maybe. So I got to go back in there because I haven't even come close to finishing that. But anyway, Subnautica Below Zero, that also requires a VR mod, but it makes it feel like native VR. But you use a gamepad or keyboard and mouse. You can't use motion controls. But I think somebody's working on a mod or to make motion controls work in that. But like you wouldn't want to swim like with your arms or anything in Subnautica. So like I think it's fine with a gamepad. I love the Subnautica games and Outer Wilds again. I recommend it to anybody who has a VR headset to get those mods, to get those games. Like they're games that like once I've finished, like I can't stop thinking about them, and like I can't say enough about them.
What is it that you like? What is it that draws you into those games?
So for me, it's this open world exploration where it's like there are no loading screens. You're in the world, and like in Outer Wilds, you're an alien going from planet to planet exploring a solar system. And on each planet, like you land on the planet and then you just get out and you walk around and you're going to find all sorts of crazy, amazing shit. And you're going to unlock. And both of these games are very mysterious. And you keep going further and further and deeper into the water or into the planets and discovering more. And you're uncovering a mystery slowly over time. And Outer Wilds is kind of more of a puzzle game, sort of, but Subnautica is more of a survival game, where you just keep crafting. And Subnautica's games, Below Zero is the one I played, but either one, they're almost the same type of game. You keep crafting, and like you find blueprints along the way. You find wrecked ships, and then inside them they'll have technology that you can scan, and then that helps you build. Like, say you can build vehicles that you can go around in the water, so you can get around really fast in these underwater vehicles. There's some I can't even like begin to get into how much there is, but there's amazingly giant monsters underwater. So a lot of people get too scared to play the game. Some people don't like the fact that you kind of have to grind to search for materials. So like you might need titanium, you might have to go find copper, you have to go find quartz, you have to go find diamond. Well, you're gonna have to go hunting for it. And some people don't like that whole thing, and then having to resurface for air. But the more you play it, the better technology you get, and like the deeper you can stay underwater, and then you can get, like I said, a submersible vehicle where you can just stay inside that vehicle. You don't have to worry about air as long as you're inside that vehicle. It's just, exploration is what. And see, the other game I said, Skyrim VR, my top 3 games of all time, that's another huge exploration game where you just have that giant open world map and you're just exploring, and like you never know what you're going to come across. So yeah, like Skyrim VR, I put 100 hours in. Subnautica was 60. Subnautica Below Zero was like 25. I think Outer Wilds is something over 30 hours I've put in. And I just love them. So, all right, that's enough about those two. Now, Lone Echo 2, that came out this month. Well, we're going to do a review of that. Then Song in the Smoke, that came out this month. Do a review of that. And Resident Evil 2 VR. There's a mod for the Resident Evil 2 remake that came out. That's on Steam. So there's this VR mod that there's first person and there's third person, and I've been testing it out, and it's surprisingly good. There's some jank there still, and they're still working on the mod, but like you have motion controls, and you can walk through the hallways. It works better than I actually expected. You have a gun and a flashlight in your left hand, and you can point it wherever you want to look. And there's settings where you can set it so the cutscenes are first person, because by default it would be like third person cutscenes. And it's completely playable in first person. There's some stuff they got to work on. Like, for example, like the character bobs his head a lot, and that's kind of like annoying in VR. When the character's bobbing their head all over the place. I don't know if there's something they can do to make the camera more stationary, but yeah, I thought it was really, really impressive. So I think I'm gonna maybe I might wait for that mod to get completed before I continue, but it's good enough that you could go totally through the game in first person, I think.
Nice. I am interested in that for sure, especially if you're playing Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
How is the performance in the game? Because my concern is anytime you take, this is the Resident Evil 2 remake, so it's not remaking Doom BFG from 2012, right? So it's better graphics. How did it perform?
I have a 3080 and an i7 8700K, and I thought the performance was okay, but yeah, if a weaker system would probably struggle a lot. But I had my super sampling at 150%. Maybe I had to put that lower. I wasn't positive if Steam super sampling was actually affecting it. But I did have the graphical settings up like pretty high. I kind of just left them at the default, which was most of the stuff was pretty high. So maybe I needed to put them lower. But like, yeah, So everything's great when you're just standing still, but when you're like strafing, say left and right, you could see a little bit of reprojection. But it wasn't so bad that like I'm pretty sensitive to reprojection, and it wasn't so bad that I didn't want to play it.
Okay,
So not
that's
that
good.
bad.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I sort of always have shied away from VR mods to games that are kind of unofficial, right?
You gotta stop shying away.
I came to that conclusion because I'm hungry for like these full games, right? Especially after
Yeah.
playing Resident Evil 4. I'm like I miss this, man, and this will get me to spend more time in VR because we're not gonna get these games for God knows how long. So we're gonna have to make do with these mods, and thankfully people are taking the time to do that. That's awesome.
A friend of mine on YouTube, he's Virtual Insider. His last video was a video to really explain to people all of the great VR mods that have come out recently. So Virtual Insider on YouTube is the very last video. It's something like VR Modding Revolution. And so I recommend looking at that video if you want to see the types of games you can play in VR now.
Well, one of our mods, Goran, in our Discord, infamous Goran,
Yeah.
I saw that he bought the game GTFO, and
Ah.
I was like, did you get this for the VR? He's like, yeah. You know, him and Carl got it, which I find it hilarious because like GTFO is like this horror, like hardcore co-op game. So,
Yeah.
which doesn't say Goran to me. Like, Goran is Walkabout Mini Golf and Rec Room. So I might have to grab that game. I'm bummed because I noticed that they got it during the sale and now it's like $40. So if
Ah.
like I'd be if you're interested in that, I'll wait to
I'm
play it with you because I think the next Steam sale is I think November 24th, somewhere around there. So if you want to wait a few weeks, I'd be down to get it. And plus, they can let us know how it is in VR, right? If it's any good.
Yeah. I'll look to see if there's any other keys around. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that from what I can tell, that mod seems pretty fleshed out. It seems pretty good. It's hard for me to tell, but I thought I was reading that the company actually put out sort of like native VR support for the game, but it's weird. They don't maybe advertise for it, so I don't know, but it's been out for a while. I think it works quite well, so I'm totally interested in the idea of like this kind of 4-player co-op. I saw somebody reference sort of like this Left 4 Dead vibe where you're like 4 people working together. But I understand the game's like really hard and you really got to be working as a team. So that sounds cool to me. That I'm like, sign me up. Hopefully it works out good. So
Yeah, a guy I used to work with who was also into VR. He told me he liked that game a lot, but he hadn't tried it in VR before. But he liked it just on a flat screen, so it might be good.
all right, yeah, let's talk. That'll be a fun game to play together.
Yeah.
All right, so the in the last month I play a little bit more off the chains disc golf. After the episode that we had, I reached out to the dev and I was kind of like, look, I like your game. I just reviewed it. I ended up refunding it, but if you can hook me up with a key, I'll play more, and I'm happy to provide updates as they go along. So he was nice enough to do that. He asked for some feedback, and I was just talking to him about it. I see that the game is continuing to get updates. It's still not in a place where I feel great about it, but I'm optimistic he's going to do something with it. And I actually tried it on Quest 2 as well, since I was using that, and it seemed to... I had a easier time on the Quest 2 with the controller. I don't know. I'm guessing maybe I don't know if it's developed for the Quest 2 in mind and then brought over to like Steam and the Index, but play a little bit better. But still, I think it's got a long ways to go. I just I tried the game Grapple Tournament last night really quickly because it was on sale. That is like a kind of Unreal Tournament style game where I think the mechanism or the twist to it is using like this grapple hook to shoot a wall and hoist yourself up, and you can climb walls and stuff like that. It had kind of cool shell shaded graphics like Borderlands does. So
Yeah.
look at it, ran good, but I don't think it has a huge population of players right now because it's on Steam, and I believe it's in like side quests right now in beta. So I'm guessing when it comes to Quest 2, we'll see more of a population. I didn't love it, but I probably spent 20 minutes in it at most. So I think I was able to grab it for 10 minutes. I'll probably hold on to that game and just see how it develops over time. Going back to disc golf, I was hungry for more, and I saw that there was another disc golf game on Steam called Disc Golf Valley VR. I think maybe next month I'll do a review of it. We'll see where we're at if we kind of are starving for reviews. But I really like that game. That game felt great to me. Like the putting felt really good. Like I was, especially after playing Off the Chains. This is more of kind of a cartoonish style of graphics, but it works. It's kind of like on Walkabout Golf, mini golf style graphics. But it just felt great. I think what holds that game back is that there's not a multiplayer aspect to it yet, and it's begging for multiplayer. This was a game that was an app first. It's still an app, and they're still updating the app. And then they made the developer did like a VR mod to it, so it's an official VR game. So it's lagging behind some of the app content, and people are upset. Like when I look at the discussion pages in Steam, because the developer has kind of gone silent for months and months and months, and it needs some work. But man, I felt really good about this game. I was having a blast in it. If and when it gets multiplayer, and if and when it comes to Quest 2, this could be like a walkabout mini golf style like level of fun and accessibility. So pretty hot on that. I'm assuming that they're working on a Quest version. I mean, it would be a no-brainer. I mean, they'd be printing money if they made that. And of course, I played Resident Evil 4, which is going to be review. So I'll talk about that later on. Hyperdash was another game that I just downloaded on Saturday and have been in love with it. That's going to be my other review. Dagon, which you told me about. That's the Lovecraft story, H.P. Lovecraft. It's like a 30-minute story. It was like a flat, free story to download, and they made it so it works in VR. It's a little janky at times. I was getting constant reprojection running at 45 frames a second. But because it's got a VR pasted on, right? You can see like my computer's using resources to run it in the background, no matter how much I try to scale it down. But it's not. It's just look at pretty scenery or not so pretty scenery, however you want to think of it, and just listen to like kind of a story play out. So it was cool. I did that on Halloween. I thought that was appropriate. Again, it's free, so why not?
I didn't try it. I just posted it so other people could try it.
Yeah.
I didn't get to.
I tried it. And then I just have a note that I bought the Resident Evil 2 yesterday with like 45 minutes left in the Steam sale. I got it for like $14, which was awesome, something like that. And in anticipation of the mod, which I'll wait till the mod is good, right? Like I know it's not released now, but once it becomes more polished, that's when I will jump into that game because I'm looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, and they're also working on Resident Evil 3, a VR mod for that, and 7 and 8.
Dude, that is awesome. I'm not a Resident Evil guy whatsoever, and I'll talk about that more in the review. But like those games, I could see having a lot of potential for being just really good in VR.
Resident Evil 7 is one of my favorite games, like ever. It's up there. I said there's 3. Well, it's not too far away. That in VR was awesome. Even it was on PSVR. It was still awesome.
Yeah, I tried to play the flat version because I know people love the VR version for the PlayStation. And I just couldn't do it. Like I got bored. I don't know, but I can see myself playing in VR. So that's the power of VR. All right, news. You've got a lot for us. What's been going on?
Yes, there's been a lot of hardware announced this month. So the HTC Vive Flow was announced. We talked about that in the last episode, I think, where we thought it was just going to be like basically a media viewer, and that's basically what it is. It's this really small form factor headset with 1600 by 1600 per eye LCD, and to compare, I think Index is 1600 by 1440 per eye, so it's higher res. But it's 75 hertz, and they advertise 100-degree field of view, horizontal, which means it's going to be less than that. So that means this is going to be a low field of view thing. These low-profile headsets, they use pancake lenses, which are these like they have like two these thin lenses, like stacked up on each other, and it's this lens type that allows them to have the screen closer to the lenses, and then you can have a smaller form factor and lighter headset. But then I think you tend to have less field of view. So another headset we're going to talk about later is going to have these same type of lenses. So it has 2 tracking cameras, so it has 6 degrees of freedom. And it's only 189 grams, which is really light. It's it's so light that it's just like a sunglasses form factor, with no top strap or any. There's no strap at all. It just goes on your ears, and I don't know if that's going to be painful. 189 grams to have on your nose and your ears. I don't know. It's going to have diopter dials adjustments. So like that's something no other headset that I know of has. You can adjust the like it to compensate for your myopia, like your how bad your vision is. I think it said it goes up to like 6 diopters. So if your prescription was worse than 6, that I guess that wouldn't work for you. Then it's going to have an XR1. Like the Quest 2 has an XR2, so that's a downgrade compared to that. It has 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage. It's going to use an external battery, so that's part of why it's so light. You have to have an external battery connected, with a cord from the battery to the headset. You use an Android phone as a 3DOF controller, so it doesn't come with any controllers. You just got to use your Android phone as a controller. It only supports Android, no iPhone, and this thing's $499.
What a joke! I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did I say that out loud?
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing impressive here is the weight, the 189 grams. So if you're, if you have money to blow and you really want something really light, then maybe you could buy this. They were marketing it a lot to like women and like people that are into yoga and meditation. I don't know. It's probably they sent me a million emails trying to get me to pre-order, so it's probably not going well.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with HTC. I mean, they're still cranking out headsets. They're still in the VR market, but it just seems like a lot of swings and misses going on.
Yeah, maybe in China this will work. I don't know. It's not going to work here in the U.S.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking that as well. Maybe that's where their market is and their target.
Yeah.
All right.
So then the next big headset is the Vario Aero. The Vario already had really expensive, like maybe like $5,000 VR3 headset that had, I don't know what they called it. They called it like a Retina level display in the center, and then outside of it was a not as high res display. But this Vario Aero is their consumer level headset, where it's 2880 by 2720 per eye, which I think is the highest res consumer level headset. I mean, if you're not counting like Pimax, the pixels per degree is 35, whereas that VR3 I was talking about, that's like 60 plus pixels per degree in that center high res section. But it's then it's gonna have a mini LED backlight, where mini LEDs just means the backlight is lots of little LEDs, so they can have better like local dimming and have potentially better blacks and stuff. But from the reviews I read, I think they said it didn't really seem that much better than regular LEDs. I'm not sure why. 90 hertz, aspheric lenses, which according to reviews, there's like no glare or God rays, a very large sweet spot with great edge to edge clarity. That's very important to me. Like not so much like the biggest issue I think with Index is the glare, the glare you get. But I can deal with that. But like big sweet spot with great edge to edge clarity. I would love to have like complete clarity. I mean, Index is really good, but like still at the very edges, you're still sometimes gonna have to like move your head to center it a little bit. Not like the G2. Like I said before, the G2 is like really bad edge to edge clarity from my experience having one. So then 115 degrees horizontal field of view, they say, but again, reviews were saying that they measured it being less than that. Some reviewers said it was much worse. So Index is better from what I saw with field of view. It's going to have auto IPD adjustment with eye tracking and dynamic. It's capable of dynamic foveated rendering. It's going to be $2,000.
Oof.
But the reviews said multiple reviews I saw said that they saw distortion at the edges. So like when they were turning their heads, there was like distracting distortion. And then they also saw chromatic aberration, which is like where you can see separation of colors. So you can like see the red and see the yellow because the lens is spreading the colors out. And then another issue is it doesn't have any headphones or anything like that. It's earbuds that you have to plug into the side of the headset. and the only mic is on the earbuds. There's no built-in mic. So for me at $2,000, I'm not interested. It would need. I feel like for me to spend $2,000, everything would need to be better than Index, or at least on the same level. Like at least have the same, level of audio and everything else. But like I'm not gonna pay $2,000 for distortion.
Yeah, that's
So
insane. That's insane. I
yeah,
mean, this is I guess a case of a smaller company.
yeah,
That's what they need to price it at because of they're not going to be selling in volume. So if somebody wants it for 2,000, great, but that's just insane with those negatives to pay that. I'd rather just wait. Within 2 years, we're going to have a more affordable, better alternative for sure.
yeah.
And the Index gets the job done right now. Even though the Index has been out for 2 years, it's still solid.
hmm
It's still good.
Yeah. I'm good staying with Index for now. But if something came out where everything was better than Index, I would be very tempted, even at $2,000.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, people like you and I, we spend crazy amounts of money on pinball machines. There's just like a single game, so that's where I justify it. It's like if I could buy this $2,000 headset, and I would play thousands. I could play hundreds or maybe 1,000 games on the thing.
Do you want me to ruin that for you?
Yeah,
Well, so I mean, the trick with pinball is that
yeah,
you're right. Like, and I do that trick too. It's like,
hmm
well, I spent this, but it's a lot of money, but I spent so much time with it, right? Like, I spent so much time
hmm
with my computer, it's worth the cost. And I spent, even the new pinball machine I got, which was like $7,000, right? Like,
hmm
I haven't spent that much time with it, all things considered, but it holds its value and it even goes up in value. With the problem with this tech is that you buy it, and
hmm
like in a couple years, it's half the price of what you paid, if not less. So
yeah,
that's the trick with it. But hey, you're getting your use out of it, so it's worth it as long as you use it like crazy. And God knows that you spend enough time in VR, so I know that someone like you would get your money's worth if they did come out with something good. I'm
yeah.
surprised that there isn't a $2,000 option that's better than Index right now, to be honest, because I mean there's enough of a market, I'm sure, for people who are hungry for that and would drop that kind of money.
Well, speaking of, Pimax has right now an 8KX, which I know a guy who's like a respected VR guy who says that he likes it better than Index. So I think he had an Index and he sold it. So he uses an 8KX, but he says there's distortion at the edges, just like I experienced when I had a Pimax 5K plus. But he says he puts it at the lowest field of view setting, and he says it's still more field of view than Index, and so he doesn't see the distortion. And he says it has like less glare than Index, so he likes it more. And that I think those are selling for like, I don't know, 11 or 1200 right now. So I don't know, but I'm not really willing to take that risk with Pimax. But anyway, we can segue into Pimax announced their Pimax Reality 12K QLED headset. So this is this they announced this. I don't know, might have been a week ago. 5,760 by 3,240 pixels per eye, and actually I put here 16K. No, actually 12K. But anyway, true 12K is 12,288 by 6480. So them calling this 12K isn't accurate. It's just kind of a marketing thing they're doing here. So like horizontally it's 5,760 pixels per eye. So if you add that up, I guess you could round up to 12K, but it's not. The vertical resolution is like half of the vertical resolution of an actual 12K panel. And also, like, you can't, with VR, you can't call it, like, if you have two 4K panels, one for each eye, you can't really call that 8K, but that's what Pimax does with their 8KX headset. They call that 8K. You're getting a slightly different view of the same scene in each eye. So it doesn't really work that way. So I've always had an issue with their marketing. But anyway, this is going to be an HDR LCD with mini LED backlighting. They say 200 hertz. I don't know how they're going to do 200. Maybe it's only 200 hertz at some lower field of view setting or something.
Do they have a computer from 10 years in the future that's going to run this?
I know exactly. Yeah. I think they're saying you have to have a 3080 or better to run this. But even that, I don't think, yeah, my 3080 would be running that. So then they say 200-degree horizontal field of view, and they claim that they have eliminated distortion. But I feel like I heard that before with the 5K Plus, so I don't believe it. So then they have compound lenses that are both aspheric, which is what the Vario is using, and Fresnel, which is the lenses that we're used to, which an Index and Vive and Rift and stuff. So also, this isn't just a PC headset. It has an XR2 chip in it, so it can also go standalone. So it's like they're just trying to put everything they possibly can in this thing, whatever's like big and popular now. So Quest 2 has an XR2, so they're like, let's put an XR2 in here. It can do Wi-Fi 6E, so you could wirelessly play with it. You know, if you have a router that can handle it, just like you can with the Quest 2. And they're also going to have WiGig 2 wireless, which nobody has yet, for VR. But there's going to be this module they're going to release where you can plug it in and get WiGig 2. They haven't exactly explained how that's going to work. It has 11 tracking cameras, 4 head, hand, and controller tracking cameras, then 2 eye tracking cameras, 2 face tracking cameras, and 3 mouth and body tracking cameras. So this thing's going to be looking down at your body and tracking that, and like doing leg and body and hip tracking or something, in addition to your mouth. Then it's inside out. It defaults to inside out tracking. There's an optional lighthouse plate you can put on the front, just like the Vive Cosmos, where you can get lighthouse tracking. It has speakers built into the head strap, but then there's optional off ear, sort of like Valve Index, at least what it looks like. Headphones. Then there's hot swappable batteries, 3 microphones. There's a mixed reality cover with cameras for mixed reality. I don't know what this means, but there's a 5G cover. I don't know how you're going to use your VR headset with 5G, but maybe they're claiming you're going to use this thing over the cloud. It's $2,400, and it comes out Q4 2022. They're also saying they're going to release this Pimax VR station for people that don't have a computer that can already do VR. You can buy a computer from them. And they're going to have a Pimax store where they're going to sell all the games for the standalone. And if you buy an 8KX or any other headset now, you can trade it in at full price when this thing comes out. The full price that you paid, you can trade it in, and they will put that toward your purchase of this 12K QLED. And that's all of this is very hard to believe for me. And they're saying it's going to be at CES in January 2022 for people to try. I don't believe that this thing exists right now and that they're just throwing a bunch of shit against the wall.
Yeah, Pimax is like, to me, like so close to a scam. So close to a scam where they're not necessarily a scam. But I think, as you pointed out in the beginning, the fact that they lie in their marketing call, like this 12K and stuff, like, you don't even have to do that. Like, it's like somebody who lies when they don't have to lie. Like, it's just like, what's wrong with you? Like, there's no reason to lie here. You don't have to put that. So I have no faith in Pimax. I borrowed a Pimax from a buddy. I actually just returned it to him. I tried to get it to work like a year ago, and I just couldn't get it to work, and I didn't want to go through the headache and mess up my setup, so I gave up on it. But I have like zero faith in them. I feel like these companies like this, rather than swinging for the fences, just get a solid base hit. Yeah. Just put out a good product, build a customer base, do a good job, and then grow from there, rather than saying we need to hit a home run out of the gate and we got to beat everybody, because they cannot seem to deliver. I know I hear those rare people that like the Pimax better than Index and all that, but they're rare from what I can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I bought, like I said, a Pimax 5K Plus because I heard all these YouTubers like talking it up and saying how great it was and that the distortion was gone from the previous versions. And I tried it and I was like, no, this distortion at the edges is extremely obvious. And I'm not willing to buy a wide field of view headset and then just put it to the small field of view setting? Like, what's the point then?
Exactly. That's just bullshit. That's just straight up bullshit.
Yeah. So I'm not. They would have. Okay, I'd have to hear lots of glowing reviews of this thing, and then it needs to also be like purchasable on Amazon or something, so that I know I can return it. Because I tried to return my 5K Plus, and it wasn't. I didn't even have it for very, very long, and they wouldn't let me return it. So my only choice was selling it. That really pissed me off.
Yep. Yeah. All right. That's Pimax.
Yeah.
Now we've got the Oculus Connect.
Yeah.
That happened last week.
Yeah, that happened last week. I was at work, and I was like hoping, I hope I don't have to like do anything, or my boss doesn't come in here and ask me to do something, because I was like, I was so sure something really important was going to be announced. But almost all they talked about the whole time was the metaverse. There's some people were saying they were doing a drinking game where every time the word metaverse is spoken that they were going to drink, and if you did that, you'd end up dead, because it's for over an hour, maybe an hour and a half. It's like all they talked about is that, and showed pre-rendered video, 3D videos, like animations of like what they want the metaverse to be, and they're acting like they're inventing it. And like I'm like, the whole time I'm like, a lot of this is already being done in like VR chat and Rec Room and like Neos VR and things like that. They have Horizon Worlds, which I've never tried, but all I've ever heard is that it's not very good. So I don't know what it's like really high level. Just like, hey, look, we're joining a game with our friends. Oh, hey man. Oh, that was a cool picture you uploaded yesterday. And like that's like kind of like over an hour of that type of thing. I don't know if you watched it.
I didn't, because I know it's that kind of bullshit, especially in the previous years. As you're talking and I have not even allocated much bandwidth to Oculus, Facebook, Metaverse, whatever nonsense they're calling it now. It's like the Facebook aspect of things and their marketing and these stupid videos and the stupid presentations that they put out. That stuff is just a little vomit-inducing and cheesy and wrong. But then, like, the tech and what their team has created with the hardware of the Oculus and what they've done from a technology standpoint is pretty remarkable. Mm-hmm. Like, I have these conflicting views of it. Yes, it's just super cheesy. Their marketing seems out of touch. It's just the meta rebranding to the Meta or whatever. It's just like I don't know how many times I can roll my eyes, but then when I actually think about the technology that they're working on, what they've done with these portable headsets, the amount of people that have gotten into VR, it's too bad. I wish it was just purely all good, right? Like I'm so conflicted on them. But yeah, that stuff is painful, and it did not pay any attention, especially when I heard there was no significant announcements.
Well, I don't know, there might have been one. I'll get to that. But so the Meta rebrand is, like, from what I understand, Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and whatever the hell else they own, that's all going to stay the same. They're going to keep their names. Meta's going to be the umbrella company like Alphabet is over Google, but Oculus is going to change to Meta. I guess because that, the whole VR side and AR, like maybe that fits more under the name Meta. Maybe that's why they're.
God.
So yeah, it's gonna be MetaQuest, Meta, whatever the hell else they release.
God.
Yeah.
Just why? No one asked for this.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people know the Oculus name. Even like pretty casual non-gamer people know. They think whenever they hear VR, they say, "Oh yeah, Oculus." So I don't know why they're getting rid of that. But,
Yep.
So there were all these leaks about this new headset that was supposed to be coming out. Everybody thought there was going to be this Quest 2 Plus or a Quest Pro or something. There's so many leaks that I was sure of it. But they did give a brief look at this thing they're calling Cambria, which looks just like the leaks that we've been seeing. It's this black headset with this hump on the front where it's going to rest on your forehead. And it looks like it has a battery in the back, which is very appealing to me. I do not want the battery in the front ever again, like the Quest and Quest 2 have. And they say it's high-end, and they say it's not a Quest, but it's compatible with Quest. So I guess that means it can run Quest games. So it's gonna have. They said it's gonna have the pancake lenses like the Vive Flow has. So I don't know how good the field of view is gonna be. So I'm a little bit worried about that. But that's part of making it. It's gonna be light. It looks like it doesn't have a top strap, so it's probably pretty light. It's gonna have high res color mixed reality pass through, which I don't really care much about. But I'm sure some people do. Eye and face tracking. And they showed the controllers just like in the leaks. There are going to be no tracking rings on the controllers, so they're gonna have cameras in the controllers just like in the leaks. And it's coming next year. They did this woman came in to talk to Mark Zuckerberg, and she had this big black case, like she was about to unveil the headset, and then they didn't even open the case. Like that
Jesus,
she
dude.
came. Yeah, it's like, what the hell? Everybody was like, what the hell was that about?
It's like they did these like leaks or whatever just to get people to tune in, and
Yeah.
then with no thought of the fact that people are just going to be disappointed.
Yeah, that might have been intentional, just so they get their stupid, their stupid metaverse and meta crap, you know, out there. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they won people over with this presentation.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear anybody that was happy about it.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job,
So
Facebook.
then the one big announcement was that GTA. They're working on GTA San Andreas for Quest 2, and they didn't. I don't think they said when it's coming. They just said they've been working on it. So a lot of people were excited about that. I played that a little bit on PC back in the 2000s. I mean, I'm not that excited about it. You're probably not, because you're not that much of a retro gamer.
No, yeah, I didn't play it, and again, this is not like a title. I mean, it's just way too long ago. We're talking like
Yeah.
17 years ago now. I'm not terribly interested about resurrecting a game 17 years ago. A game that came out maybe 10 years ago, where the graphics are a little better and game design's more sophisticated. Sure, yeah, but this does nothing for me.
Yeah, so they're coming out with remakes for the flat version of this game. So maybe it'll have the remake graphics. I don't know. I don't know if the Quest 2 could handle that though. So who knows? And then the one other thing is there's no more well, eventually, I don't know how long it's going to take, but there will be no more Facebook login for Quest. It'll end up being a Meta login, and I don't know how much different that's going to be, but it won't be tied to a social media account anymore. So a lot of people will be happy about that.
Yeah, it sounds like potential good news. I mean, I have a friend who sold his Quest because of the required Facebook login. He didn't realize that, so he wasn't
okay.
happy.
All right.
Yeah, so I think that's a smart move on their behalf for sure.
Definitely.
I don't have much news to add other than I pulled the trigger on a B-Haptic suit yesterday. I don't know. I just felt like treating myself and throwing away
Wow.
some money. So I know the experience will never justify the cost of that. That thing seems way overpriced. But Goran, who's getting a lot of mentions on this podcast, has one, and so does Carl. And I guess I think they got a GTFO because it has haptic support. And I wasn't. There was nothing to upgrade in terms of my VR setup, so I was like, I guess I'll get that. And everything I've read, I guess the gist is like, yeah, it's kind of cool. It's maybe it really depends on what your expectations are. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just haptics. There's some rumbles, but it can kind of pinpoint where you got shot, and it's cool. And $500 is probably too much, but at the same time, once you start using it, you don't want to give it up. So I feel like I'm going into it with eyes wide open. I think it'll add to my experience. Maybe it'll get me into VR more, and I'm happy to give a full review once I get it. When I ordered it, it wasn't in stock. It says it should be shipping on November 17th, so maybe hopefully in our December podcast, I'll have it, and I can give a review of it.
The only time I've tried haptic vests was at the Void, and I thought it was really cool. I actually felt like I was actually getting shot where this, like where the lasers were hitting me. Like I was in Star Wars, the Star Wars one, and I was in the Ghostbusters one, and it really was convincing. So I've thought about it.
Was it
like
impactful, like the movement, or were you impressed by the fact that it was like pinpointing where you got shot?
so when I got shot by a laser, it actually felt like I was getting hit in a very isolated spot, like you would imagine a laser.
Yeah.
And so like that was cool. And then like a ghost like flew through my body, and that felt convincing. It could have just been just an overall rumble. I don't know, but it tricked my brain enough that I was impressed.
Yeah, when I was doing research on this, people were saying like they wished that they didn't play through Half-Life Alyx already because I guess the integration in that game's really good. Like when you go
Ah.
to a healing station, like the whole thing, like there's 40 sensors in this thing, right?
Yeah.
So all 40 things are kind of going off, like pulsing a little bit, like you're getting your health. Like I can see how that's like, yeah, that's cool. Or like, 40 sensors, it can just pinpoint a gunshot on your body. Another reviewer said that after he used the vest, he then wanted to get the one for his arms and his legs and his head. And I can see like in a competitive shooter, if you get hit in the head and there's no feedback, I mean headshots are usually lethal anyways, and they end you, so that's it. But yeah, I'm excited to try something new. I mean, haptic suit, haptic vest, that seems like it's gonna be a required, not required, but almost like required, like right, almost an accessory that people will be using, 5-10 years from now in VR, and I'm sure it's going to get way more affordable. This is, you pay the price for, getting something early like this. There's really no competitor to them, so they can charge whatever they want on this. So again, I wanted to grab it now. I mean, it was $500. It was $500 last year, and with prices going up on everything and supply chain issues, I was like, you know what, I'll just get it now. Why not? This will be my treat. So hopefully a full review coming next month.
Do they have legs or crotch add-ons?
Not crotch. You should talk to them
No.
about that. But they have legs and like I think like wrist or arm pads, and then again like a head thing. Like you could replace like the the foam piece in your headset, and that has sensors in it too. So
So if you're
Yeah.
getting punched in Thrill of the Fight or Creed.
yeah. So like people were saying like Thrill of the Fight, you don't actually get hit in the head. You don't get hit in the body a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So like nothing's happening a lot in that game. It
Okay.
really varies by game. There's games where developers have embraced it, right, and added support into the game. Like Pavlov, I think has native support. I know Hyperdash does. I saw it on there. Larcenauts, which we reviewed, has it on there. So you check that box, and then games that don't have native support by the developer will have possibly somebody's created a mod for it. Like Population 1 doesn't have official support, but somebody made a mod for it. And also, if you don't need a PC VR for this, it actually works with Quest. Although I think there's only like 17 Quest games that are supported versus like I'm using rough numbers right now. Roughly like 40 games in PC. So obviously there's more PC games, but you could still get this and have it work for Quest.
Cool. Wow. All right. So the next thing is after the fall, it got a release date finally for December 9th. So we have that to look forward to. There's a game called Ancient Dungeon, which is like a dungeon crawler kind of, but it's like a voxel type game, pixelated. That comes out November 3rd. Blade and Sorcery Nomad was announced that's going to come out to Quest on November 4th. And there was an update on PC for this dungeon. Now they have dungeon levels where you can actually, instead of just having a sandbox where enemies just come at you, you can actually go through some levels. I haven't tried it yet, but I'd like to try. I heard it was cool. I don't know. Do you have Blade and Sorcery?
Yeah, I'm like the one person who didn't like it. Like I got it when it first came out, and I understand this appeal for like weighted weapons and stuff like that. It just never clicked with me. It never did anything for me. I'm not like a let me play in the sandbox kind of person, and also the performance was never great. It was like going to reprojection, so I own it. I mean, I can try if it ever became anything, but I just for whatever reason it doesn't connect with me like it connects with like everybody else.
It doesn't really connect with me. I just like did a video of it because I thought it'd be good for a video, and then I like never played it again. But I kind of want to try that update. But yeah, I'm not into sandbox stuff at all. I think a lot of younger kids are into that sandboxy type stuff. But I need like an actual game, like actual levels.
Yeah, I need like what is my purpose? Like
Yeah,
give me a goal objective or at least a good story. Something like that, right? Like I
yeah,
guess I'm quote unquote goal oriented or something. But yeah, you're right. There's people who you give them a sandbox and they'll go nuts. They love that more than anything.
yeah. So another game is called Gravitational. I only heard about this just recently, I think. I think there's a free demo on Steam. Comes out November 11th. You're a guy in a wheelchair, and it looks kind of like Portal, so it might be cool. It's a puzzle game, but I guess you're supposed to stay seated the whole time. I'm not sure. I would assume so if you're in a wheelchair. So then, Warhammer Age of Sigmar Tempest Fall. I have no idea what all that means. Comes out November 17th. It's by the Wizards and the Wizards Dark Times devs. And they make pretty good games, so that might be good. But I don't know anything about Warhammer. I think there was a Warhammer game that came out maybe for Quest previously, but I don't
Yeah,
know much
I
about
remember
that.
seeing that.
Yeah.
The Warhammer Age of Sigmar, um, Tempest Fall. That's a PC or Quest game.
It's on Steam. It might be Quest also. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's on PC. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, they're cranking out like these Warhammer games. It's like they want them to work.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna add to my list just to keep an eye on it.
Okay.
All right. I think it's time for the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for the reviews. All right. So we got 4 reviews coming up. I'll kick it off with the biggest game of October, which was Resident Evil 4 VR on Quest only. Is it only Quest 2 as well?
It's
I don't.
yeah, it's Quest 2 only.
Quest 2
There were
only.
people that were some people were doing some sort of side load nonsense to get it to work on Quest, and
Yeah.
they were saying it did work.
Yeah, and I guess
But
I was reading a little bit of that. I
mhm.
had no desire to play in side quest because I don't really use the Quest 2. I really bought it for my girlfriend. We split it, even though
Mhm.
it's half mine. I don't spend much time with it, but like, yeah, I was reading like, and even going into like side quests, like there might be like possibility on Quest 2 to jack it up to 90 hertz, and you can
Oh.
actually make the graphics look better if you want to play around with it. So, anyways, that's not for me, but. This is a game by Capcom originally, and Armature is the company that converted it to a VR game. Came out on October 21st of this year, and it sells for $39.99. Currently sitting at 4.6 out of 5 stars in the Oculus Store. Resident Evil, like who listening to this doesn't know, even if you never played a Resident Evil game, who doesn't know of Resident Evil, right? As I mentioned earlier, I'm not somebody who ever kind of got, quote unquote, the Resident Evil games like other people do. I don't like dislike them, but I think I've only played. I never beat one, but I've played through a few of them a little bit, and I'm like, it was like always an okay game. I'm just surprised at the sort of the love and the longevity of the series. This one, the original game I think came out in 2004, 2005 for the GameCube. I didn't play it when it originally came out, so it's hard for me to really compare, the original version to this. But my understanding is a pretty faithful recreation with just some odd things omitted. I guess there's like some innuendo between the main character and another character in the game, like just talking about going back to her place and hooking up. Like they took that out there. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You're shooting people with in the head and there's monsters, but you can't talk about just hinting at hooking up. It's bizarre times that we live in. Anyways, so the I guess the story of this game is that you're this dude from I don't know. People are gonna crucify me because I don't know Leon's
Is
whole
it
backstory.
Leon?
Yeah, it's Leon. So he was in the first two, right? At
Yeah.
least he's in, I believe it's Spain. He's trying to rescue the United States president's daughter. Of course, right? It's like the most cheesy like plot line from. Sounds like a '90s plot, even though it's a 2000 thing. Well, anyways, fine. You play this game in first person, and I think it's like roughly 10, 12 hours. I'm only about 4.5, close to maybe 5 hours into the game. So I kind of been biting this game off in chunks, like 30 minutes at a time, and trying to enjoy it, not trying to push through it. There's also I don't play a lot of quests. I find the quests uncomfortable, and the quest definitely is uncomfortable for me after like 20 minutes. It's just still not a pleasant experience versus like the index. The index is like a cloud, and I forget I'm wearing the index versus the quest too. So like after 30 minutes, I'm good. But yeah, you're going through and trying to rescue the president's daughter. I'd say that the first 3 hours, like you're in the kind of this village setting, and the graphics are this just kind of terrible, like brownish color. Everything is just like brown, khaki, tan. I'm not trying to get into too much about the Resident Evil story, but it's hard not to talk about it. It's just kind of bland, and you're shooting these villagers who are like zombies, or they're possessed, or they've been infected, whatever.
I think that came out. Sorry, I think that came out in an era when every game that wasn't a Nintendo game was extremely brown and
it's terrible, man.
Earthy toned or whatever.
It's just really bad. And what's really bad about it is that you're spending at least 3.5 hours in that part. Like I'm in a part where I'm in a castle, so at least the scenery's changed a little bit, even though the castle's still brown. But you get the occasional red carpet and some nice pictures in the castle. So, but yeah, it's just really bad. And I think what is disappointing about at least this Resident Evil version, because I think the other Resident Evils are typically more scary, right? There's tension. There's no tension. There's nothing really scary in this game at all. It's kind of like get into this section, kill the villagers, manage kind of your inventory, make sure you have enough ammo and you're accurate with your shots, and then move on to the next version, find a key, and so on and so forth. That's not to say I'm not enjoying myself. I mean, I'm hungry for full games, even if it's a game from the 2000s. Despite what I said earlier about Grand Theft, I find I have the hunger for it because we struggle to get that in VR. So this is a game that does it hold up? If I play the 2D version, absolutely not. Does it hold up because I get to experience in VR? Well, now I'm kind of interested in it. I'll go with some of the low lights and low moments, and then we'll pick this up a little bit because I do like this game. The sound and the music is pretty bad. And I don't understand why it's so bad, because in GameCube, GameCube should have had nice digital sound, but like the gunshots, they sound like they're just kind of muted low fidelity. Everything seems like a little low fidelity. And I know it's trying to be faithful to that game, but it's like, yeah, this is 2005. Why does this not sound better? So weak gunshots. The voice acting is kind of cheesy but serviceable. Whatever music or sound of the game is just really, really weak. Low fidelity, kind of disappointing. And as I've reviewed and talked about horror games in the past, usually horror games where they really shine is the realization of just having really good audio. This game just totally fails as a horror game. Now the controls are good. Armature did a really good job of taking a 2D game and translating it into VR. And I don't have like crazy expectations. I know this is not a game that was built up from the ground to be VR, so I know what they had to work with. But it's nice when this goes along with the immersion. Like when you shoot your gun, you got to reload your clip. So you grab your clip from your left kind of hip area, put it in, cock it back. Great, perfect. I'm glad they did that. That should be what they did, but you don't always find that in games. So that felt good. And they've made other compromises, like when like there's like a barrel, you reach to, like, you grab your knife, which is on your kind of like close to your left chest, grab that, make a swiping motion, the barrel breaks, and then to pick things up, you kind of walk over it, and it kind of floats up to you, but you still got to have like a grabbing motion to grab it. I thought that was good. Like, I don't need to bend down to grab it, even though that'd be more immersive. Is it fun? Not necessarily. I'm glad I don't just walk over or hit A. I'm glad I have to do the grabbing thing. So I think I got to hand it to Armature. They used good decision making when creating this game. It's a smooth VR experience. There's a menu system that you bring up to look at a map. I mean, I guess if you could make it better, you'd pull a map out and kind of see where you're at. They could have done that. To fully manage your inventory, you've got to bring up kind of this like loading or this other screen that's not VR, right? But everything else, like that holstering your weapon, if you wanted your shotgun or your minigun, you reach to your back and grab it. Healing's on your like top left shoulder. Your knife is on your left chest. You've got a grenade that you can see hanging out on your right chest. Grenade, you can pull a pin and throw it. So very well done, considering this is a game from 2004, 2005 that they've brought into VR. They did all these things. It was good, smart choices. I really like it. The only thing that I think is a little struggle in VR is that they have it, like most games, you can have like your VR orientation of movement centered around your head or your controller, and I always pick controller. That way, if my head's facing, if my arm's facing straight, but my head's turned to the side, if I want to look left or right, I don't move left or right, right? Like that's more natural to me. There is some weird movement sometimes where it's like it gets kind of confused in what direction you're moving in. It's hard to describe until you play it, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That seems like something they can maybe fix in a patch. But hey, look, I mean, Resident Evil games are notorious for just janky bad movement. So this is probably the best moving Resident Evil game that exists, except for maybe the more modern ones. I gotta say, overall, the story is not great. The graphics are. It's not that I'm dealing with 2005 graphics. I think the game looks pretty good. It feels very smooth. It runs well. It's not a great horror game, even though this is I think a well-respected Resident Evil game. But it's fun to play in VR, and it's fun to have a full-fledged game. So I'm enjoying going through it. I'm glad I never played the original, so I can just enjoy it. I don't think I would play this game in VR if I played the original, unless for some reason I'm a Resident Evil fanatic. But I'm really happy that they brought this game to VR. I think a serious accomplishment that they got it on the Quest 2. And I've said this in the past episodes. It's like where we are in VR right now is every company should be looking at their back catalog of games that they made. And I get that it doesn't make sense to make a huge investment into building a AAA VR game. I get that. Okay, the user base is not there yet. But I think it does make sense to take a game that's already built and have another studio or small development team make it into VR accessible, because you will sell that. You take a good game for the last 10 years and turn it into VR, you're going to make money, and you're not going to spend a lot of time doing it. It's just going to be a good return on your investment. You're able to establish yourself as getting into the VR space. You're building up talent in your organization, and you're just increasing your bottom line. I think it's a huge win, and games like this are really going to serve as a bridge until the user base gets so big that we finally get full-fledged AAA VR games. We only have Half-Life Alyx. That's the only game that I consider like a AAA full-fledged game. And until, we've got at least probably another solid 5 years till we see that, and that might be optimistic. Until that happens, we should be cranking out games left and right like BioShock. I mean, you guys can think of so many other things that we can just spurn out, but good on them. So I want to champion this game. It's pretty fun. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Just because, it's not this should be more of a horror game. It should be better. Is that the VR's fault? No, or anything like that. It's not the best game I've ever played, but I'm happy I got it. It was worth the $40. It's a game that I want to go through and beat. And good job. Good job, Quest. I wish it was on PC VR, because playing on Quest, this thing is uncomfortable. I don't like it. If the Quest was one of my main headsets and I used it more, I would have bought like the Halo stuff for that. I don't want to invest any more money into it. I don't think. I don't know. I might just break down and buy the Halo strap, so I can get through this game. But man, the Quest with the Quest 2 with the jock strap gives me headaches. Plastic pressures into my head. It's just bad. But I don't know. I like it. That's Resident Evil 4 VR for the Oculus Quest 2.
I put a Quest 2 in my Amazon cart today because of this game, and I also put in the cart these adapters where you can connect your Vive Deluxe audio strap to a Quest 2, and they're sitting in my cart. I'm thinking about it because of this game. I don't know if I should wait for like that Cambria thing or get this now, because I mean it's not that. What is it? $2.99? Yeah, it's just like $2.99.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. I mean, this is not the game where you run out and buy a Quest for. At least
Okay.
not for me. I mean, if you were like a diehard Resident Evil guy or something, I'd be like, okay, yeah, maybe. But man, especially with the Resident Evil 2 like VR mods,
Yeah, that's
that
true.
might even be the better experience and better game. Like and you've got a better headset, so
Hmm.
I think you can save your money. I really can, unless you see yourself doing other things in Quest 2. But if you're just getting it for this, in your case, right?
Hmm.
Don't. I'm sure this game is going to help sell Quest 2s, and for somebody who's not in VR already and doesn't have like an index or something. Like I get that. Like this might be a good jumping off point for somebody who's like, God damn it, like I've got to get it now. I love Resident Evil. I got to check out this VR. That's great. That's a great first experience. But for you, I'd
Hmm.
try to help a friend out and just say save your money.
Okay. Did you do all your turning physically in this game?
Yeah, I did, and I gotta
Good.
say that is the one thing, man. Where I'm at right now with VR is like
Hmm.
the Quest wins when it comes to being able to turn it and being wireless.
Hmm.
We really need the Index to have wireless. We really need a wireless, solid PC headset that's as good as the Index. We really, really need that. So
Yeah. If it's not a gamepad game, I do all physical turning. I just yeah, you just have to like years of being used to the cable and dealing with the cable. Um, so yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, so many people. I think most people do use the right analog stick to turn in most VR games, and I can't do that.
yeah, I'll do that. Obviously, when I'm wired to the computer and turning around so much will just really create a problem for myself. Or maybe if
Hmm.
this was like a competitive shooter, I might do a mix or something. But
Hmm.
because of the this game's a slow game in terms of the combat, right? Like it's
Hmm.
slow and kind of methodical.
Uh,
Yeah, so turning worked in this case.
okay. All right. Cool.
So I'm gonna for the listeners, we record this show. We record it live, quote unquote. So I'm just gonna get some water. So you're gonna be talking. Justin's gonna be
Yeah.
talking to himself for a while. So if I disappear and I don't respond for 1 or 2 minutes, that's why. But go ahead with the Lone Echo 2
Okay.
review.
All right. So the next game is Lone Echo 2. This is by Ready at Dawn. Came out October 12th, 2021 for $39.99, and it has a 4.1 out of 5 on the Oculus Store. That translates to an 82%. So the overview and objective of the game. So after Lone Echo, Olivia and Jack find themselves 400 years in the future aboard a mysterious abandoned space station. The biomass from Lone Echo 1 has evolved into a mobile form called ticks that are attracted to energy sources. Liv and Jack must solve the mystery of this future space station if they want to find their way home. So, most people listening to this probably have played Lone Echo. Um, this game is basically the same type of thing. You're going around the space station, and Olivia is telling you, "Hey Jack, can you go check that generator? Hey Jack, can you go find that battery? I think there's a battery over there. Can you go get that? Oh, hey Jack, hey, can you go scan this thing? Hey Jack, can you go use your your laser cutter to break into that panel over there, and then see if you can figure out what to do." That's so far for me. I've played this game. I don't know. I think maybe over 4 hours now, and it's that type of thing where you're just going around this space station and you're progressing kind of room to room with Olivia, and you're Jack. You're a robot, and some new characters have been introduced. So like, there's this little flying droid thing that they call Popcorn, and then I have met another human. There's another a male human in the space station who's involved in the story. But for the most part, it seems like it's pretty much the same thing as the original Lone Echo. The graphics, just like Lone Echo, the original, they're up there with the best you're ever gonna see in VR. Extremely high quality, and like the human faces are probably the best there are that you're gonna see right now in VR. The expressions and everything, and they look as real as you're gonna see. Um, there were, however, sometimes I saw some asteroid textures got really blurry. Like sometimes you're looking at an asteroid in the distance, or even sometimes one that wasn't even that far away, and I was like, "Is that what it's supposed to look like?" Because it just looked like kind of like a blob instead of having detail. And then maybe if you got a little bit closer to that asteroid, it would then all the detail would just pop in. So that was one issue. But there's some scenes where there's so much stuff you're seeing, so many asteroids, and maybe you're seeing Saturn because Saturn is the planet you're orbiting during this game, and just lots of wreckage or debris or whatever. And so there's a lot for your computer to be rendering, but the performance seemed pretty good to me. Um, and like those asteroids that I'm talking about, though, a lot of them are just stationary. You're gonna see like hundreds of asteroids orbiting Saturn. It's like the rings of Saturn, basically. But like a lot of them are just completely stationary. Occasionally, you'll see some that are moving. But I guess it would be way too hard to render that many asteroids moving. And I don't think a computer could deal with it. I don't know. So the sound, and as far as the sound and the music, there's great voice acting in this. I mean, you're not really going to get much better voice acting. Olivia has an English accent. Then Jack's voice, your own voice is, it's a robot voice. And then that male actor I was talking about, he is a good voice actor. Not as good as Olivia's voice actor, but the voice acting good. But like, I can't really remember any music in this game. It's like pretty much silent the whole game, which might be an issue to me. Like you hear the hum of the space station. Anything you interact with, you're gonna hear. Like if you use your laser cutter, or you could pick up. There's objects floating around inside there, and you can just pick any one of them up and just like tap it against stuff, and you'll hear the clanking of that. But the lack of music, I think, is kind of a drag for me. About that voice acting, you're gonna hear constant chatter from Olivia, and that may or may not annoy you. Like I said before, she's constantly bossing you around, and I don't know about you, but I get enough of that in my life as it is.
It's like a marriage simulator.
Exactly. So I kind of get annoyed with that because it's just you're never. I don't know. There's not a lot of just like figuring stuff out on your own. There's a lot of her directing you. So the controls in this game are great. You fling yourself, you can grab like any surface and then you just kind of fling yourself in the, direction you want to go. And you have boost buttons, so you can like kind of like have this little, it's like you have like little air jets that will boost you around, but then you have a stronger boost that you get a little bit later in the game where you get an upgraded suit, and then you can like do a much stronger boost so you can go further. Because once you get out in space, you're going to want a bigger boost when you get outside of the space station. You have a scanner tool and a laser cutter tool, and all that works great. Really no issues with the controls. The immersion, because of the controls and the graphics and the voice acting, immersion is great. I mean, the controls are great, and the whole anti-gravity thing, it really feels like you're there. But one thing that hurt my immersion was I had at least 5 crashes while playing this. So like anytime I went into the settings and was like, hey, let me try a different setting. Let me like try a different anti-aliasing or something, or change some other setting, the game crashed. So I think this game was probably rushed, or it was already delayed. So maybe they just didn't have enough time to test it.
Yeah, it seems like my speculation on this game is that, look, this was a game that was developed for the Rift, right? It's not a Quest game, so
yeah, it's Rift.
They've abandoned the Rift and they decided to fully focus on the Quest. So this game was probably greenlit before the company just totally changed direction and abandoned the Rift. So they're probably just like, yeah, mop this game up, clean it up, and get it out.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is probably the last PC game that Oculus or Meta is making for the time being. I don't know if years down the road they could come out with a PC headset. Who knows? So as far as lastability, this is from what I'm hearing, it's like 7 to 9 hours. That's what the range I've heard from people that have beaten it. I don't know where I am. I might be 4 4, maybe 5 hours into it. And here's the one problem with the game. Like, the graphics are great, the controls are great, you feel immersed, but the game isn't fun. You,
Yep.
like, it's. You said you played Lone Echo and you didn't like it. You didn't finish Lone Echo. I finished Lone Echo. Right. Wait, sorry, you're going to say something?
Yeah. I'm sure you're gonna like. I played through Lone Echo because I kept on thinking something cool would happen,
Yeah.
and then when I got towards, I think what I would call the end, I'm just like, you know what? This isn't. I'm not having fun. Like, it looks good and floating around, but I'm just like, go here, do this, and do this. Being like, there's no excitement and nothing in it. So I felt like I was doing work.
You're the smarter man because I just said, well, I've already put in this much work, so let me just put in more when I played Lone Echo. And the whole end of that game, I really didn't like that whole. Did you get to the biomass part?
Yeah, I think I got to the biomass
That part
yeah.
sucked.
Yeah, that's where I stopped. I'm just like, I had enough. And this is like, God, this is what happens where it's like you have a new technology, and they're pushing the bounds of the technology, but they just forgot to make a fun game.
Yeah.
Like that's like we were talking about Myst last month, and I remember that's how I thought of Myst when it came out on like PC CD-ROM and like 94, 95 or whatever it was. It's like it was impressive. Look what we can do, but it wasn't fun. It was like it's like showcasing things, and like Lone Echo when it came out was really impressive and showcased something, but they forgot to make a fun game.
Yeah.
I know people will disagree and really probably like the experience and everything, but I'm glad I'm not alone. I'm glad that you've echoed that, pun intended.
Yeah. Lone Echo was a great experience in 2017, but yeah, it was more like it didn't feel like that much of a game. It was just kind of a walking simulator in space, kind of with these very basic puzzles that aren't even really puzzles. And then that biomass part was like you were playing Operation, going through the biomass, trying not to touch the biomass. And then they introduced the biomass really early in this game. And I was like, no, don't bring that shit back. I was hoping there was a Echo Combat. Did you ever play that? I was hoping maybe they introduced some combat into this.
It made me think that speaking of like Echo Arena and Echo Combat, like I want to try that on the Quest now when I don't have the wires, so that'll be fun. But yeah, that was fun. That was the best thing I got out of Lone Echo was like it kind of introduced me to the movement in Echo Arena.
Yeah. So I thought they would add the guns and everything in the combat. Like maybe you'd fight some alien race with your guns, but no, they didn't add any of that. So far, it's really boring for me. I'm out into space now, so like at least there's some cool stuff to look at, and maybe it's going to get more interesting. But I'm not even wanting to keep playing it, even though I finished Lone Echo. So I'm giving this a rating of 6.5 because, like, for me, it's got to be fun, and it's just not yet. I don't know.
Yeah, it's too bad because the foundation that's there, the graphics, the voice work's good, the movement system and it's super cool. The concept is cool. Let me shoot things. Come on, let me shoot things. You've got it there. Stop trying to make this boring walking simulator or whatever. This is terrible, and the story is not even that good where it's like justifies like pushing through it.
And let me say something else. I said earlier about Outer Wilds and Subnautica that I love them both. You don't shoot things in those games. You're not doing combat in those games.
Yeah, good point.
But in those games, you're exploring and like you're moving anywhere you want and at a really fast pace. And like the game is like it's just like constantly going and interesting. And in this game, you're just kind of like stuck in one spot until you move on to the next room, and it's just really slow, and that's the issue.
Yeah. All right. I'm not surprised, but I am sorry to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving on. We've now got Hyperdash, and this is a game I just grabbed on Saturday, and I've already spent close to 6 hours into it because I like it. It's pretty cool. It's by Triangle Factory. It came out on February 5th, 2021. It's $19.99. It's 90% on Steam, and it's also available on Quest. I think Quest 1, I know for Quest 2. The reason I even know about this game is I saw it when I had the Quest 2 on after playing Resident Evil. When I was getting off of it, I was looking in the store and I saw this pop up, and I noticed that it had I noticed it had good reviews, and I had a lot of reviews. Like, this game had on the Quest store has more reviews than Larcenauts. So I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay, this is a game that sounds like it has a healthy player base. I'm interested in first-person shooters. It's just finding a good one that has a healthy player base is usually the challenge. So the objective or overview of the game is this is a 5v5. Your characters are like these robots-looking guys. Unreal Tournament style, Halo-esque multiplayer shooter. It's simple to pick up. I mean, how do I want to say this? The tutorial. I think my Discord's going off. Let me shut that. The tutorial is like maybe 5 minutes at most. It's an easy thing to pick up and get in the game. It's like hard to master, high skill ceiling. When I've hopped into some of the more experienced lobbies, like for the first 10 levels, you're in a beginner lobby, and I was having fun dunking on children. But then after you get out of that, if you get into players that are several 10, 20, 30 levels higher than you just it's apparent how high that skill ceiling is compared to where you're at, which is, it's not a bad thing. It's just a good thing to be prepared about. Easy to pick up, hard to master, lot to learn, which is interesting to me. And there's a number of game modes. So you have like payload, which I'm a fan of the payload style modes. Then you have deathmatch, and you have team deathmatch. Then you have a elimination mode, which I like. I really like the elimination mode. That's probably the most addicting one to me. I think players tend to like that as well. That's you square off in like an arena, and everybody starts off with pistols first, and then if you get shot and die, you're dead until the next round. So it's trying to eliminate the other team. Then you go to the next round, and if you win. When you win 3 games, then you get upgraded to the shotguns, and you kind of move up. It's kind of like when we were playing the gun game. It's a little bit like that, Justin.
Sounds like
it's actually weird, though, because the winning team actually gets better weapons. So you can really get steamrolled, but at the end, the winning team is like stuck on snipers for a while. But I found the elimination mode the most addicting, but I'm glad that there's multiple modes to play the game, so it's not like it's just that. The map layouts, they seem good. And the main mechanic behind this game is like it uses I want to say it uses the teleportation mechanic, but it's not a teleportation only game. Like you move normally, right? Like with the joystick, but you're able to dash, right? So if you hold down like the A button on the controller, it shows kind of like the teleportation icon, and when you release, you like dash there really quickly. And you have like a cooldown of dashes, so you might get like 3 dashes in a row, and then you got to have your cooldown recharge. Anybody who's played Overwatch and knows the character Tracer will totally get what I'm talking about. It's a game of all Tracers, and it just works great. It's really cool. It's taken that mechanic it's taken teleportation, and it just built a fun game around it. We'll still have joystick movement. It's fast paced. It's a really good first person shooter. Some levels, I think, not all the levels, but some levels have like these rails on it. When you like teleport to the rail, it's kind of like you start moving on it, like you're grinding it, like on a skateboard. So that's cool. The movement's just really fun in this game in terms of like fast movement, teleporting around, shooting. The guns are fun to use. It's really simple because there's no manually reloading. It's just automatically reloading. You can reload. Like on the index, it has you squeezing the index controllers, which is bad, right? Like because I would squeeze by accident. It took me a while to realize that's what's happening. So I'm reloading when I don't want to. It doesn't even do like a reload motion. It just has like almost like a cooldown so you can shoot again kind of deal. But it's all geared for speed. So a lot of times we say, this game's immersive because it has me put a new clip in and stuff. In this game, I don't feel like I need that. I'm glad it's not there. It's just about the speed and the flow and keeping it fast and fun. And I really like that. The graphics in the game, even though this is a game that's both on Quest and PC and is crossplay, this game looks good on PC. I think the style of graphics help. They're like this very kind of clean style, I would call it. I don't know how to phrase it better. It's got a vibrant look to it, and it runs great. I haven't pushed up to 144, but I think I'm super sampling at 150% at 120 hertz, and I'm getting zero reprojection. So looks great, runs great. I compare that to like Larcenauts, which is like another game like that. Larcenauts is 5v5. That's a hero shooter. But the graphics on it look a little muddy, or a little foggy or blurry or something. This game doesn't. This game just has a really clean and vibrant look. So I don't feel like that Quest compromise is affecting the game at all. It just works in this setting. So I think it's just a lot of good decision making on the part of the designers. And speaking of good decision making, the sound and music in the game is fantastic. It's got a really good kind of like I think most of it was almost predominantly like synthwave soundtrack that's playing during the round, so it gets you pumped up. All the tracks are good. I like them. The gunshots and like when you kill somebody with it, like just going up and getting a headshot or hitting an opponent, sounds great, feels great, guns feel good. It's just, this is a game that's just really good on the presentation level. I'm really surprised by it. It's one that I'm pretty sure I saw this in the Steam store and just passed on it because I'm like, here's another shooter that they release. It's just like, whatever, this is the gimmicks dashing or something. And I looked at, like today I think it has like only 100 reviews on Steam. So yeah, most of the people in this game are not PC players. I didn't realize it was crossplay, and I didn't realize that it had a large player base. So the other important thing is that there's people always playing this game, so you can get into a game, which is fantastic and obviously important if you're going to have a multiplayer game. So the game gets good reviews. There's a player base. It runs well, feels well, crossplay. I love this game. Some things to watch out for is that there's a lot of kids that play this game. Why? I don't know. Who are all these parents that are just buying VR headsets for their children? I don't get it. Like it's kind of crazy to think about, but you're gonna hear some squeakers and some kids. You can just mute them. I find that it's weird. I find there's lobbies where there's just adults and just kids for the most part, but there's a lot of kids that play this game, unfortunately. What are you going to do? I think that's just the nature of the Quest. And if it wasn't for the Quest, this game would be dead on the vine because there's not enough player base on PC. So it's just it's the cost of doing business, but I'm fine with that. So I think this game has a lot of lastability. It's addicting. I'm gonna play this game after we get done with the podcast. I'm looking forward to it. They seem to keep on developing it. They had a Halloween event where they changed around one of the levels into kind of like a Halloween themed one, and they had some quote unquote mutators where you had you were wearing like a pumpkin helmet so you can take more hits to the head, and when you shoot people, it had like a vampire mode where you gain health back. So it's fun. I think where could it be better? I think that they need like a party up system where you can group up with friends before you go into a match, so you're guaranteed to get into a game with friends. That would be nice. I think that's needed. Right now, Justin, it's kind of like on when we would try to find a game in Pavlov, we would just pick the browser and get in there and make sure we get on the same team. Mm-hmm. There's not even like a pre-start to it that I'm aware of where you could pick teams, so it needs that. And I think like any kind of competitive game, it needs like a ranked mode where you can group up and like maybe play. They let you have like squads and put like a squad name in. I don't know if there's some functionality that I'm missing other than the naming of that and maybe some stats associated with the squad. But again, being able to party up with a group of friends. I saw them advertising in games that they have like leagues. They're like on season 3 of their league. So this is maybe, in some of the reviews I'm seeing, some people are like, yeah, this is the best first-person shooter in VR. Maybe. I don't know. Like it's too early for me to say. To me, Pavlov's sort of the king, and it has been the king, and it's fantastic. But this is a unique game unto itself. And if you're looking for that kind of Halo-esque multiplayer Unreal Tournament, I highly recommend this. It's only $20. I got it on sale for $13. That was a steal. And I give this game a 9 out of 10.
Wow. I was wondering, when those people are dashing, can you shoot them in the middle, or are they kind of like invisible?
No, you need to, like, you can kind of see you can't shoot them. you can kind
Okay.
of predict where they're going, so you can kind of time like, oh, this person just dashed a couple times, like they're probably out of dash. There are like power-ups you can get so you can get more dashes,
Mm-hmm.
but most people you're like, oh, they just dashed like 2 or 3 times. They probably are on a cooldown now. I'll blast them. Or if they're going
Okay.
to dash here, I'm going to dash there. It's almost like a dance that you're doing, right?
Hmm.
And you're turning around, spinning around. And even though like there is moving around and turning around and spinning around, I was able to play this game corded and not feel like I was at a great disadvantage or anything like that.
Hmm. All right. And you say it's more fun than Larcenauts and Pop One.
I'd say that. Yeah. Thank you. I like this game. I responded to this game a lot more positively than Larcenauts. Larcenauts, it's like I want to like Larcenauts. I play like a match or two, and I'm like, oh, okay. This game, I'm like one more game, and then I am like, holy shit, I've been playing this game for an hour and a half, right?
Wow.
Pop One, I think Pop One I had fun with, and I played a lot last year, or a good deal amount of time last year. Pop One, I'm just disappointed in the fact that even though it has manual reload and stuff like that, like I don't like the crosshairs. And I think it has that blurry kind of look to it where it doesn't look as good on PC because the Quest 2 gets dragged down. Where
Mm-hmm.
this game just looks great, feels great, works great. And I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't know. I think it's better than Pop One and Larcenauts. But again, I think it's what you look for in a game, right?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever even seen it. I gotta go check it out.
Yeah. Let me know if it appeals to you. I mean, I'm on playing. I'll hop in a game with you.
Okay.
There's definitely like I'm glad that they have beginner lobbies. I find it funny because I thought I saw in the patch notes that they just added the beginner lobbies, so I can only imagine how frustrating it was for people to get into a game because there is that learning curve. And even though I've quote unquote graduated now from the beginner lobbies, I went into a lobby the other day and I just got demolished, like not even close. So that's something to be aware of.
Wow. Hmm. All right. So should I go on to the next one?
Do it up.
Okay. So the next game, the final game, is Song in the Smoke. This came out by 17-bit on October 7th, 2021 for $29.99. It has a 4.6 out of 5, which is a 92%. It's on Rift and Quest, and it's coming to Steam soon. I'm not sure the exact date, but soon is all I remember seeing. So basically, you're a caveman or a cave woman. I think in the beginning you can pick a guy or a girl, and you're wandering through the jungle and caves, searching for food and things to craft with, because this is a survival game. So you'll find rocks, you'll find sticks, you'll eventually kill animals and pull their guts out and use that to craft with. You'll find flowers that you can craft with. So there are as far as the graphics, the first thing I noticed when I first got into this game, I was like, okay, this definitely looks like a Quest game, and it is a Quest game, and like so I think the PC version probably looks pretty similar to the Quest, but like I'm sure it has better lighting and better shadows. But the graphics are still good. They're like you said before, like for what game you were talking about, it's cell shaded, which I think in VR looks good. And even though it doesn't look super realistic, I still felt immersed there, and I could appreciate the graphics. There was nice lighting. There were fog effects and particle effects. Like where you can see particles floating in the air, and you could see like beams of light coming through the trees and nice looking sunset. So I still appreciated the graphics. The sound, as far as the sound and the music, there's tons of jungle sounds, and you're hearing animals the whole time. So that I like that a lot, and you're occasionally hearing some sort of like jungle-ish kind of like singing, like in the background. I think it's mostly female voices, kind of. And so that all worked for me. As far as the controls, you craft with your hands. You have motion controls, of course, and so when you get a stick, you can actually like use you can make a knife. I don't remember if they give you a knife in the very beginning, but you can make a knife with an arrowhead and a stick, and then you use that to carve sticks into different shapes, and then you could end up making a club, or you could make a bow and attach string to that, and then you make all your arrows. So you get a stick and you put an arrowhead, and you have to put feathers on the bottom, and then now you have arrows. So now you have a bow and arrow. You make medicine, so you find flowers, and you actually have like a mortar and a pestle that you drop the head of the flower in, and you can actually start. You hold it with your left hand, and you pick up the pestle part with your right hand, and you're actually crushing it, and then you create a paste, and you bring it up to your mouth, and that'll give you something like, it'll maybe increase your health, or it'll increase your energy, or maybe it'll warm you. Because this is a survival game, so you're always, over time, you're getting hungrier, or you're getting more tired, or you might be getting cold because it's dark out and you just went through the water, because there's water and streams all along. And this, as far as the graphics, the water looks really good. I remember thinking that when I played. And so you're gonna have to hunt. Like there are deer, and there are enemies that are actually, they're animals that are going to actually attack you. Like there are these dinosaur-looking type things that have feathers that come and attack you. I just played it today, and I got attacked by a giant boar. I didn't end up killing that, but you kill these animals, and then you rip their guts out, you take their bones, you take their hide. I haven't played enough to know what I even do with the hide yet, but I don't know how long I've played. I don't know, probably 4 or 5 hours of this game. It seems like a long game. Like, as far as immersion, I really felt like I was there, especially because of these hand interactions where you're crafting everything, and you have an inventory where all this stuff's going. And eventually your inventory is limited, so you have to manage your inventory space. It's one of those types of games. And Subnautica is the same type of thing, where you have to manage your inventory, and then you craft things. And that kind of thing is really fun to me. I don't know if that's your type of thing, Nick. Probably not, but I really like all the crafting and all of that stuff. And there's a day and night cycle, so you can see like the level getting darker and darker as you keep playing. And then it'll be like, well, either I need to make a fire or a torch, or let me just go to sleep. And you can if you're at a fire, you can go to sleep anywhere. You to save the game, you have to be at a fire, but you can sleep anywhere, and that will lower your fatigue level. And then, a lot of times I would sleep long enough so that it'll get bright again, so I can see better, so I wouldn't have to worry about the torch and all of that. And as far as lastability, this game, the devs say this game is 12 to 20 hours, so that's a long VR game. And I can see myself going back, like I can see myself going back into this and actually playing all that time, because like I'm really enjoying it, because I'm into this type of thing, because it's an exploration game, and you're just going through these levels, through the jungle, through caves, and you don't know what you're gonna see. You turn a corner and you're gonna see some brand new enemy, like I just did today, that wild boar, or who knows what. Some of this stuff is really trippy. There's some psychedelic stuff that happens in this. Like there's this 3-headed raven flying around that has some weird, creepy human head in the middle of its chest. And then sometimes you see other crazy things running around, and you don't even know, you're like, what the hell was that thing? And it's like you're seeing, I don't know if you're hallucinating or what's going on, or if I ate some bad meat. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, you could even if you beat this game, I could see going back into this game just for like the jungle ambiance, because it just kind of feels pleasant in there. And so I recommend this game. I'm giving this an 8.5.
Nice.
So yeah.
That's pretty solid. Pretty solid. Can
you play survival games, or do you get annoyed with that mechanic?
You know what would get me in a survival game? Like, I had fun playing The Forest. The Forest is a survival game, but here's what I liked about it. One, it was a survival game that's co-op, right? I can hop in there with my friends. That's cool. That like a solo survival game doesn't do it really for me. And then also the Forest had a great story to it when you play through the story. So that's like one of my favorite VR experiences of all time is playing the Forest with you guys. So that was so much fun.
I don't even know what the story is other than you crash your plane.
Oh, did you not play it through with us?
No, I didn't play it. I played it.
You played like one time.
I played it a little bit with you, and I
God.
played it with some other people before, but I don't. All I remember is there being a plane crash, and then you're in the forest.
Dude, you gotta play that game.
It was really bad performance, and then I didn't like the controls. Is what I remember.
Yeah, it's I mean they have native VR support from the developer, but that was I mean even with that jank. I mean this is my testimony to this game.
Yeah.
Like even with that, you're absolutely right with the jank. Even with the jank, playing through that game. And I'm sorry, I forgot that you didn't. I know you played with us like I think once, but like playing through that game with a group was really fun. I mean, it's like terrifying being like there's like caves that you go into.
I remember going into the cave and then I fell down a rope and died.
Yeah, and there's this. You're trying to figure out what's going on in the story. And I don't want to ruin anything, but like that experience. Doing that crafting and stuff with friends, but then again, to be honest, when you're like playing through the story portion of the game, you're not really doing the crafting, so it's kind of weird. That game is like I guess it's a survival horror, but the crafting and building a fort, it's like you don't even have to do any of that stuff. You almost really don't. You can just kind of play through without that. But anyways, so with those conditions, I would like. I'm looking at this game. This game's a single player game, right? Like if it was
single player.
it was a multiplayer game, I'd be down to try. Like I'm always looking for games to get into, like co-op games with friends. Like I think co-op games with friends in VR is fun.
Yeah, I'll play multiplayer, but my base preference is single player. I don't know if it's because I was an only child. It's just like what I'm used to. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad. Like again, I've said this before, but I'm glad that you have different interests than me because this is a much better show. We can cover all the bases pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, listen, let me know if you get Hyperdash or something. And I think let's keep an eye on GTFO, and hopefully we can grab that on sale. And we'll pay attention to see if how Goran gets it to work and all that good stuff. Because that I think that'd be fun to play together.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, any closing thoughts before we end the show?
No, I don't think so. Just, there's some games coming out that we already mentioned coming out this month, but nothing that big in November that I'm aware of.
There we go. Well, listen, I'm excited. I found some fun VR games to play. I'm going to hop into VR after this. I feel like, there's the ebbs and flows of VR sometimes, but right now I'm in a kind of a high point, and looking forward to connecting with everybody next month. Hopefully I'll have the B haptics and I can talk about it, although I'm probably going to say what I've said because I get the impression that's the consensus out there, but I'll give some a detailed review when that happens. But until then, have a good month, have a good Thanksgiving if you're in the U.S., and we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.